Hello, I am Chris Quintrank, and this year I had the pleasure of chairing the 2022 George R. Terry Book Award Committee. But today I'm excited to present our honorees for the Terry Book Award. This award is presented each year to the book judged to have made the most outstanding contribution to the advancement of management knowledge during the past 2 years. That contribution can be to the advancement of theory, its conceptualization, management research, or practice. This year, the award committee members were Jacob Eisenberg, Megan Gerhardt, Mattia Gilmartin, Tom Lawrence, and Allison Sheridan. I cannot express enough my gratitude for the amazing work they did in joining me on this committee in the last few months. This year's committee task was really daunting. More than 70 books were nominated, representing an eclectic range of topics and perspectives in the field of management and organization studies. This made the task both daunting, challenging, but also incredibly interesting. Now I'd like to share with you the finalists in no particular order. Woke Capitalism, How Corporate Morality is Sabotaging Democracy by Carl Rhodes. Management as a Calling, Leading Business, Serving Society by Andrew Hoffman. Emerging Domestic Markets, How Financial Entrepreneurs Reach Underserved Communities in the United States by Gregory Fairchild. Power for All, How It Really Works and Why It's Everyone's Business by Julie Battilana and Tiziana Casciaro. Teams That Work, The 7 Drivers of Team Effectiveness by Scott Tannenbaum and Eduardo Salas. The Banks Did It, An Anatomy of the Financial Crisis by Neil Fligstein. The eclectic coverage of our nominees is very much reflected in this group of finalists. But I am happy to announce that this year's George R. Terry Book Award goes to Power for All by Julie Battilana and Tiziana Casciaro. I'd like to share with you some of the comments that committee members made about this incredible book. It is at once grounded in theory about power and the decades of research about its use and effects that we have, but it also incorporates theories of organization behavior, politics, communication, identity, and social psychology to lay out strategies that we can use to understand and acquire power. At the same time, they provide a robust narrative that is perhaps a more normative take on how power can be used for good and how understanding power can help us become more aware of and offset its negative manifestations. Another committee member commented that the book was distinctive in that Power for All informs about the use of power in changing and improving the effectiveness of organizations through people, yet it is not managerialist in its approach. It has a democratizing view of power, and it challenges us to think about power as always relational. So it is my great pleasure to introduce the authors of Power for All, How It Really Works and How It's Everyone's Business, Julie Battilana and Tiziana Casciaro.
Hello, I'm Julie Battilana.
And I am Tiziana Casciaro. And together we want to thank the George R. Terry Book Award Committee and the AOM community for this great honor.
We are thrilled and very grateful to receive this award for our book, Power for All, How It Really Works and Why It's Everyone's Business. And want to first start by acknowledging those who were nominated alongside us. We are privileged to be considered alongside such a stellar group of peers who wrote books that are having significant impact on management research and practice.
We also want to thank everyone who worked tirelessly with us on this book, especially our teams at the University of Toronto and Harvard University, and the over 100 individuals we interviewed for this book, and our publisher, Simon & Schuster. We would not be here without each and every one of them.
We dedicated 3 entire years to writing this book, animated by our desire to democratize access to knowledge about power. Why? Because for our collective 20 years of researching, teaching, and advising, we have observed that while most people want to have an impact in their organizations, their communities, and more broadly in society, their impact is often limited simply because they do not understand power. This is particularly true for individuals and groups that have historically been excluded from power.
We believe that power can and should be for all, not just the few at the top, because everybody can see through how power's inner workings shape behavior in relationships, organizations, and society. So by design, we wrote this book to span the personal and the societal, the workplace and the community, the small dynamics of interpersonal relationships, and the big dynamics of economic and political action. Linking all these levels in a comprehensive, integrated view of power is what can enable readers, no matter who they are, to exercise a level of control over their existence and have the impact that they aspire to.
As we all know, we're facing an ongoing multidimensional crisis that is not only a public health crisis related to the pandemic, but also an economic and social crisis characterized by rising inequalities on the backdrop of a worsening environmental crisis. And simultaneously, we're also experiencing a political crisis and growing threat to democracy. This multidimensional crisis is fundamentally a crisis of power concentration. And this moment requires change makers to develop a deep understanding of the inner workings of power, which first starts with expanding access to knowledge about power.
So thank you, Academy of Management, for this award. We hope that by giving visibility to Power for All, it will help expand access to knowledge about power. Now, more than ever, this is critical.
Thank you, Julie and Tiziana. It's interesting that this year, so many of the books we were lucky enough to read and review in this amazing group and eventually name as finalists concerned both fears about democracy, power imbalances in organizations, communities, and entire economies, but they also offered us solutions. And perhaps this book, Power for All, represents the zeitgeist of all of this amazing work so well. We encourage you to read these thought-provoking, inspiring, and ultimately useful books. And we hope you take the time to view other All Academy Award presentation sessions coming up. And whether you are in Seattle or joining us virtually, we hope you have a wonderful meeting connecting with your friends and colleagues. Thank you so much.